Hello, we are live from Conscious Life Expo. I'm Tony Sweet. I'm here with Captain Ron, and we are honored to have with us. We've had her on the show many times, but it's always an honor to have Linda Moulton Howe with us.
Thank you.
In person.
Thank you, Linda, for being here.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
So every year, Conscious Life Expo, this is, I think, their 15th year of bringing people like yourself together.
Right.
So people like us can come and see you do your workshops and
Yeah.
speaking about topics that you're specialized in. And so before we get into detail on some of the stuff, what are you talking about this year at Conscious Life Expo?
I'm doing a lecture on Saturday that is, are we living in a simulated universe? And what amazes me, 5 years ago, there was no discussion of this. It has only been in the last 5 years an increasing number of journal entries and titles, which is now happening on a more frequent basis. Are we living in a simulated universe is now reaching the mainstream science journals, and it was a year ago in April of 2016. And it was Neil deGrasse Tyson was the moderator of a panel in New York. And on that panel were people like Lisa Randall from Harvard and from Jim Gates, University of Maryland. And what is so interesting in his work, he is considered one of the specialists in supersymmetry. He's a PhD. He's been teaching and studying for a long time. And what he has found are what are called error codes. When we have computer networks here on the planet, you have to have error codes that are constantly going out to servers and terminals, and it's a reality check so that it reduces error. Well, he has found when he's studying leptons and quarks, this is the subatomic level, he's finding the same error codes that would be mathematical.
Now, who would ever imagine such a thing? That's insanity.
And so there was this big discussion, this panel in front of it was a packed audience at the museum. And Neil deGrasse Tyson argues this is a simulated universe, and he is the guy who took Carl Sagan's place for the Cosmos series. And then Elon Musk, a couple of months later, he is at the Recode Code conference that was in Las Vegas. And this is a lot of people who are dealing, they're software coders as well as people who make computers. And this is where Elon Musk, in front of this huge packed audience, when he was asked the question, what do you think about this hypothesis that we could be in a simulated universe? And he said, it's 1 billion to 1 odds that we are in a base reality, which means he's saying the odds are we are in a computer simulated universe.
5 years ago, this was never thought of, and now suddenly this is like those top guys really believe this is the probability.
And it's the math.
Yeah.
It's the math. It's the math. And when you come down to if we are in a simulated universe, there are various hypotheses about could it be holographic or is it just an information system? If you go to the work of Thomas Campbell, he worked for the Department of Defense and did all kinds of things during the Reagan administration and others. And he has 400 and some YouTube videos that he's been putting out for about 3 or 4 years on his big, The Theory of Everything. He has a 3-volume book out called My Big Toe, T period, O period, E period. That's the theory of everything. And from his point of view, he argues that the table, walls, everything, down to the sub particles in the subatomic level up to galaxies, that the truth is it's all zeros and ones. All zeros and ones. He would say there is only one thing operative, and it's consciousness. Well, ask yourself, you hear that word a lot. We're at a Conscious Life Expo.
Yeah, it is becoming more
What is consciousness? Seriously, we can say it's a dictionary will say consciousness is being awake and alert to the environment around you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that doesn't explain to me how we could all be zeros and ones that are being, and this is the key to Campbell's hypothesis, the projector of the zeros and ones
Right.
cannot be in this universe. It must be outside of the universe, because this universe would be like the frame when you do computer frames in film or something, and they talk about a frame.
Right.
It means on a universe-wide scale, this would be a frame of this one universe. The projector of the zeros and ones has to be outside. And when I said to him then, do you mean another dimension? And he said, it could possibly be defined as another dimension. Okay, jump over to the human abduction syndrome. I'm going to include in my presentation one of the most fascinating interviews with a Phoenix resident named Jerry Wills. And back in 1998, he was in Peru specifically to go to the Aramumuru. It's a rock wall on Lake Titicaca, and it's between Huli and Yave.
Right.
And at that rock wall, his new bride watching, there was a witness. He disappeared in a flash of light into
Wow.
this rock. When he appeared, he thought, he did reappear, and she was there. So she saw him disappear in a flash of light and come back. He thought that he had been gone for perhaps weeks.
But not but a split second.
She said that on her watch, he was gone something like 2 to 5 minutes.
Oh wow.
It's like the movie Contact, right?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
yes, but here is, we come to my lecture to hear the whole thing, but he ends up knowing that something is happening. And he said that the first conscious feeling, he didn't know. He had no idea what was happening, but he had a feeling that, if you could imagine starting to walk backwards and you fall off a cliff without knowing the moment that you fall. I can even feel it right
Yeah,
now.
I can-
It makes
yeah.
me feel that terrible, like when you're
Right,
asleep
right.
and you're
Roller coaster, right.
okay.
Right,
And
right,
that's
right.
that's what he said. It was
Wow.
just a horrible feeling, and then he felt like he was falling down. Then he is seeing stars, he's seeing galaxies, and he ends up in a space that he said was so white that he didn't know up, down, wall, anything, except that he knows he has to be on something solid because he's 6'9",
Oh,
and
wow.
he's very tall, and he's standing. He knows he's standing, so he has a perception now like we would have if we're standing on a floor, but he doesn't have any up, down, any orientation. And he starts calling out, "Where am I?" And suddenly a male voice says, "Who are you?"
Oh,
And he
man.
says, "I'm Jerry Wills." And this voice says, "Well, where are you from?" And he says, "I'm from Earth. I was at the Aramumuru rock doorway, and now I'm here." And the voice says, "Oh, Earth." Like
Didn't
with
we all say that?
complete
Oh.
knowledge.
Like on Earth.
And then, it's very, very incredible and complex, but the bottom line is this voice ends up telling Jerry Wills that he is now in another dimension, like a universe in another dimension, and that this intelligence, they had tried to find out in a lab experiment in their dimension, how can you take the physics and the chemistry of the creation of a universe, we'll say of the Big Bang,
Right.
and ever end up with organic life and consciousness in that life? This is what this man, this voice says.
Well,
And
all right,
well,
go ahead.
but one more step, because this is so incredible. The voice says, our experiment was in a laboratory, and it began to expand, and we couldn't control it. And we saw a spark of light in our laboratory experiment where they were trying to create the ingredients of a universe, keep it contained, to study whether or not organic life would show up when, he said, it went out of control and it penetrated another dimension, which is you, your universe. And he said, and what we have learned that shocks us, we have learned in our process of experimenting, your universe was created because we lost control of our experiment. But in the process, we found our dimensional universe is nested in another universe that is bigger than ours. We encompass your universe that came from us, and you will find that there are many universes nested in each other.
It almost sounds like
This is
somebody's
what I want to
pregnant.
ask you about. This is what I want to ask you about, Lindy. So we just said 5 years ago, the theory, the idea that we are living in a simulation was nowhere. Now all of a sudden, it's becoming very mainstream. Another thing we touched on is that the multiverse theory 10, 20 years ago, nobody thought that was anywhere real. And now that, the multi-dimensions, is the mainstream, the top guys, that is the mainstream view. The mainstream viewpoint is that there are multi-dimensions.
Yes,
Now,
Good at Harvard, it's G-U-T-H.
Yeah.
He's one of the outstanding astrophysicists in the entire world, and his hypothesis for a long time has been that when they study the properties of this particular universe, like the voice was telling Jerry Wells, he came to the conclusion and hypothesized in a very, very important paper that has been like a brick in astrophysics, that the true reality must be an infinite number of universes. Now, I'm making a statement that is coming out of mathematical analysis, but
Right.
now let's jump up back again into the human abduction syndrome. I've interviewed maybe 1,500 people that have really truly been in some kind of interaction with intelligence that is beyond their education and their ability. But they come back. Humans have the ability to have an interaction, and they retain what they feel. Humans retain what they see, and they retain what they hear. One of the descriptions that comes out of the human abductions is this: the truth about the cosmos, and this is now the whole enchilada, is that there are as many universes as there are grains of sand
I believe
on an
that.
Earth beach.
Well, these things add credibility to it. Each
Well,
one of these visualizations, it
But
makes
think,
that.
yeah,
Yeah.
but think about the
Awesome.
next sentence. And surrounding the beach of sand of all the universes is a cold, dark sea. When the abductee said, well, what is the cold, dark sea? The answer was, you don't want to know. Now, what is the
Now I wanna
reality?
know.
Right.
But
That's why we're here.
what is the
Right.
reality? Because we're in a universe. If it
Right.
is one grain, if the 13.8 billion light year
Right.
universe that we're in is
a grain of
one
sand.
grain, and if there is the universe next door encompasses us, and another universe we encompass, what is it that is causing? A lot of people don't realize that going through, we'll call it this big universe that's sort of shaped. There is, they've discovered this just also in the last 5 years, it is like a river of galaxies. Literally a river of galaxies. And it's going across a huge swath of the universe. And the question is, what in the world? What would have the gravitational force? Because you'd have to have no gravity at the
Right.
one end of the river. You'd have to have something
That's it.
that would be pulling a river of galaxies.
Yeah.
How much?
Now, now I
I
want
can't
to
Physical
even grasp it.
math.
I don't know
I
how
know.
these guys, and then
But
they
these
run
are-
the
this
math.
is
It's
true.
insane.
Yeah,
And it's
yeah.
reality. It's not
It's
some crazy
reality.
That's
not
Yeah,
making it up.
yeah.
And
So-
that's a fact. I mean, that's like we can point to and measure how far away these galaxies are. These
right.
aren't some crazy theories.
No.
That's an actual fact.
That's right. There's a river
It's
of
insane.
galaxies that is going through this universe, and there isn't anybody who understands.
Well, what I find fascinating is, we're so concerned about ancient or aliens and extraterrestrials. That is so basic to what you're talking about, because there's so much more than just extraterrestrials.
That could tie into this. That could be
I'm
the
sure it
interdimensional
does.
thing, which a lot of people feel it is a dimensional thing.
You guys, can you imagine of what we've just talked about, that Homo sapiens sapien and life on Earth would be the only life in
No,
this?
I
mean, it becomes
that's-
preposterous.
yeah.
But it is.
It's laughable.
But
now
this
when
could
someone says
also explain all these things. They say that the Bigfoot thing they think could be interdimensional because they disappear. The UFO, the alien abduction thing is often thought of as interdimensional.
Well,
Th-
let me
this
give
could
you
point
a
to a lot of
fact
these.
about Sasquatch.
Tell me.
I've interviewed a man in Snohomish, Washington, out pulling weeds, noon. He's on his father's property, everything is normal, and suddenly the pine trees begin to move as if there was a 100-mile-an-hour wind.
Wow.
That's what he sees first. And he just stands there in a state of shock because all the rest of the property is absolutely still.
Wow.
He doesn't see anything. Then it pops in. It's not coming like Euclidean geometry. Pops in, it's a big silver disc. It's right there. He sees it pop in. Down comes a beam, two figures that would be in the Eben, the gray Eben category, and they're wearing the leotard, well, I call it leotard, meaning skin tight,
That's
and
what
it's
you're wearing.
sparkly,
I know what you're talking about.
sparkly blue.
Again, see?
Yeah.
And these two beings get down. They're only about 40, 50 feet from him. He's now frozen. He said he felt like if he just didn't move or breathe, they wouldn't see him. Obviously, they would know he was there, and they probably demonstrating. But the next thing is, immediately after these two, another beam comes down. And now he is astounded because he's seeing an 8-foot Sasquatch comes down
believe
in
it.
the beam and follows the two Ebens into the forest.
Wow.
I believe it.
And you interviewed this guy firsthand.
Oh yeah, and
he seemed very
he's-
credible.
Oh,
and
very.
Wow.
And then the police and sheriffs, they were all dealing with Sasquatch appearances and all sorts of things. Now, he's not the only person. It's getting people to talk on the record. He's not the only person.
That's probably
who
rare
has
to
seen-
see such
But
an
why is
event
it-
like
well,
that
I
because
mean,
they see him after.
I guess I'm thinking of you and myself. Why would anybody not want to talk about that? I
Because
mean,
they
I
are
would.
afraid of humans telling them that they're crazy.
Okay.
So humans are more
Used to
afraid
that.
of humans than they are of ET.
Well, let's touch
Yeah.
on this for just 2 seconds to get out of our thing. This is changing, though. That's the good news. That's why we have all these people here. You just said we had 7,000 people at AlienCon.
That's right.
People are opening up to this. It is becoming easier to talk about.
It's a good
It's
point.
not as crazy, right?
It isn't crazy, never has been.
I don't think so. I thought this as
No.
a kid.
No,
but I'm
no,
saying
no.
that, I mean, people that have that perception, I think.
And you had looked into the eyes of the humans that I have talked to before they died. And many of them have sought me out because they wanted to talk with somebody they thought that they could tell things that are in some ways incomprehensible. And in the process of doing that, there's no question, as one man said to me, Linda, for 30 years, what we are dealing with is so strange, is so bizarre, that he said I and my colleagues never ever wanted to take any of what we were studying or learning home to our families. Now, to people listening, I've always tried to say, I've walked all over this planet by myself. I have taken scalpels into pastures by myself. I have cut tissue from mutilated animals by myself. If the phenomena wanted to take out somebody who was revealing what they were doing, I would have been gone a long
Right.
time ago. My very existence says to me that the phenomena doesn't want me gone, or you,
Humans.
or
Right.
the government may have problems, but not the non-humans,
Right.
and that when you look at the ranchers who have had 12 mutilations over 2 or 3 years, that means the phenomena is there in their pastures all the time. Nothing has ever happened to the people.
Like Dr. Jacob says, they don't care what we think or what we're doing or whatever.
But
They have their agenda.
Exactly, but they're not there to hurt those ranchers. And I
Right.
can say that with great confidence. So people who are listening, I'm saying don't be afraid, be curious. If you take all of the phenomena that will be discussed here this weekend and everything that you've heard and all that I do, if you take it with curiosity and you go after it with, I want to know what is happening so that I, a human living on earth, can become stronger about what I am and what is happening, then I think it's healthy. And you get stronger, which is why I would like to see our government tell us all
Agreed.
the truth.
Agreed.
That strengthens us. That does not weaken.
And I don't ever hear of either of these phenomena, of the Sasquatch or UFO. Very rarely do you hear something negative or bad or someone got hurt. Almost
Well, I was
never.
going to ask
No.
that. Have you ever either had somebody that maybe didn't want to come back? They're like, oh, I'm staying with.
Well, we
it."
don't know.
Well, we would never know.
But the
They're
thing is,
gone.
have you
If
ever
they
had-
stayed, they-
Have you ever had like
The
a
missing
couple?
people.
Maybe one person said, we were abducted together. I stayed. They stayed with the aliens. I came back. Nobody's ever said that.
No.
So we just
The
don't know.
only people that I know are the ones who have come back to talk. But now let's go into, what about all the missing people?
Right.
David Paulides has, what, 500,000 a year or something?
Yep.
They're missing.
Could be.
We do not know. It could be something having to do with human trafficking on planet Earth by psychos, but I don't think that would explain 500,000.
Right. That's
Could
a
go
lot.
back to your dimensional.
And exactly, are we dealing with some kind of a trade route that we are completely out of? I don't know. David doesn't know. But that's a phenomena of missing people that nobody has an answer to, and the government is completely silent.
You never hear this in the news either. I don't know why people don't talk
Yeah,
about
I
it.
know.
I'm surprised
I
that we
know.
don't talk about
I'll
this
tell
more.
you one more that is amazing to me. You would think that Homeland Security would get right into the middle of all the booms, metallic scrapings, and the trumpet sounds.
You don't even hear about that. at
I
all.
get the reports all of the time, and it's happening all over North America, Mexico, Central America, South America, New Zealand, Australia, and Europe. Why, if we are so concerned about terrorism in the United States, and people, a police officer driving home at noon in Georgia hears a tremendous loud boom, thinks a bomb has gone off, finds as he's turning in to lunch to go into his driveway and open up the garage door, he finds when he gets out of his police car that the garage door has literally jumped out of the track, and the only thing that can explain it is the boom, and there are cracks in his cement. This is physical force, this is percussion that knocked a garage door out of the track and cracked the cement. Then he learns that when exactly at the minute that he drove in and heard this bomb, because then he calls his office,
Right.
5 counties in Georgia at exactly the same moment are calling 911 fire department.
Wow.
5 counties. So the
Huge.
size of whatever happened,
Is that what's going on right now, or is that what we're hearing?
not any discussion by Homeland Security or any government
No
agency
mention of it.
ever.
Never mention
It's
it.
always kept at the county or state level, which I think it's been this phenomenon has been going on since January 2011. This
What do you
is definitely
suspect it is?
beginning.
Do you have any guess?
Oh, I've talked to so many people, and the speculation ranges from we could have the government of the United States creating underground installations because they know something bad is going to happen, and they're just saying, let the chips fall they may. We're going to just
it's
keep
tunnel
building,
digging.
building. And war with underground aliens, that comes up a lot. Changes that are preceding the possible magnetic pole change. And this is a very interesting one because we have not had a magnetic pole flip.
Long time.
And,
coming,
and
right.
let's get this straight on the record.
Hey, I want to hear this.
The Earth does not move.
Right, just the
There
magnetic
is,
poles.
You're like-
it's like a magnet that
Right.
changes the negative and positive poles. So
Again,
that's,
this is a factual thing, Linda, that we have absolute
it's
proof
happened
of.
thousands
Right.
of times on this
Exactly.
planet in 4.6 billion years. But the last time was 876,000 years ago. Before then, it had been happening about every 200,000. Well, that means that we are almost
over there.
More
4
than you.
times. And why would any scientist think that there might be a possibility that we are actually heading in this century toward magnetic fields? It's because there has been an area in North America that has been changing and decreasing the magnetic field strength very rapidly, while at the Indian Ocean has been a spot that is really increasing. So now you've got the picture that they relate to what would have happened in the last pole shift when they study the lake sediments.
Right.
When they have done reports out of lake sediments in Italy, for example, they find that in that last one, within 100 years, this was a shocking paper 2 years ago, that within 100 years, the magnetic field strength of the planet went almost down to zero. And what happens if you have a zero magnetic field? You have solar energy that is coming unfiltered to the Earth.
A lot of cancers
Skin
and- yeah.
cancer rates go way up. Then the magnetic field comes up, then it goes down. Then it comes back up, then it goes. So that means in 100 years, if you have erratic magnetic fields, what does happen to birds? What does happen
Right,
to
they're getting
marine animals that are
confused, yeah.
dependent? What happens to skin cancer cases? Well, there's changes, but it isn't that dramatic yet. But what if in 10 more years
As it could be.
it
yeah.
goes? What would happen on this planet?
Do we
if
know?
The
We could have
magnetic
a
field-
partial extinction eventually, don't you think?
Well, computer, you say, ask scientists, do you have computer models? Have you run computer
Tell me what's
models
gonna happen.
on what would happen if it goes to zero? And the general answer is no, we still don't know.
Do you think that could be contributing to also, I mean, might be man-made too, but also like the bees dying?
No.
No. Is that
That's
all man-made?
neonicotinoids. That's nicotine. It is is it all right to say Monsanto? Monsanto
Yeah,
is a
yeah.
big corporation,
Yeah,
and they
yeah.
want to make money more than they want to save bees. It's really that hard.
It's so gross.
And
yeah.
I find that to be the grossest thing on the planet, that somehow the Earth has gotten away from cherishing life to the dollar
Right,
or the
right.
pound or the yen is God. And until money does not have that kind of influence on this planet, we're going to continue to have wars. We're going to continue to kill each other over what? Territory, power, greed. It makes no sense.
Does not make
Linda, I
sense
wanted
at
to ask you this. You were saying here how this is 800 and some thousand years
Since the last magnetic pulse.
right, which is way longer than we think it's been happening, right? That used to happen every
Well,
200,000 or
before, but then you can go back further,
Then there
and
was
you
a
will
longer
find.
stretch.
Oh yeah, and it's one of the most interesting things. Google graphic on magnetic pole changes of the Earth, and you will see these barber poles that come up. That they go back way, way long, and some places you'll have, and it goes black, white, and it'll identify this is where the magnetic pole changed. And as you go through, you might be going along like this, and then
long
real
stretch,
thin,
yeah.
and then wider. So it's been very.
Well, I was going to say the same
erratic.
thing though. Like even with like super volcanoes, aren't we overdue for that? Like Yellowstone, they're saying
That
should be.
scares
I
me,
mean,
that
that's
one.
another one.
That
But
one
again, we're
scares
due,
me.
right? Are we
Well,
not?
now we're back to the core of this Earth. The core of this Earth, the center is an iron crystal. It is under tremendous pressure so that the irons, the way it hooks together in the angles at the atomic level is like a crystal. And what a lot of people don't realize is that this core, which is solid, it's not liquid. It is like a crystal. It is a sphere at the very center of this Earth, and it is about half the size of the moon in the center of this Earth. Now, when you get outside of this big crystal,
And that's spinning all the time, right? Isn't it?
well,
Supposedly? Or is that not true?
it turns, but you're talking about something that is going so slow that it can take a year or two to make its body.
But it spins independent of us,
It's
though.
moving.
Yeah.
This is the point. So the crystal sphere moves, and around it is liquid. And it is iron and nickel in a liquid form that surrounds this crystal. So what you end up with, you've got a crystal sphere that is turning one way. You have the liquid iron that goes the opposite. That is the dynamo of Earth. How many planets have that? And we don't know.
Right.
That dynamo makes our magnetic fields. Without it, we would
I
not
was
have
gonna say
magnetic
that
fields.
the effect,
We
wow.
would be, probably surface life would not be able
Right.
to survive. So that strange world is what makes us able to have the life that we have right now. But as you go out from that liquid, you then start getting into boulders and magma. The magma, a lot of people think Hawaii, all of that stuff coming, it's not liquid. It is like jello. So the magma that comes all the way up to the surface of the Earth, and this is another shock. We'll call it the rind. It is like a rind
Right, like a
on an
crust,
orange.
yeah.
That crust on all of that hot jello is only on an average somewhere not more than 15 miles.
Right.
So depending on what's happening at that crystal sphere that's turning one way in this iron, they know this is the key to when the magnetic poles change, but there's no way for us to get down there. We have no way to do anything in terms of seeing. So the only measurements that they can make have to do with what is happening. And so when you ask about a supervolcano, here's one of the questions. There have been periods on the planet when there have been what would be extinction event volcanoes.
Yep.
Truly extinction events. Syria, Iraq, Lebanon, that whole area, it's covered with lava. There were
From supervolcanoes.
volcanoes that were thousands, millions square miles.
And it literally covered the Earth, right? It covered the entire atmosphere.
These
and
were
wiped out.
extinction
Right,
events. Okay, now, this is a very interesting geophysical question, and scientists are debating it today. Are the same physical mechanics of that crystal core and that liquid that changes its rate, are they the key to supervolcanoes, or is there something else we still don't understand? Because it may be that the magma that goes all the way up to the rind from the inside may now be in a different state with less, we'll call it like a volatility. And if it is more stable, it may mean that we're past an age of having the supervolcano.
That
But
would be-
nobody
Wow.
knows for sure.
It's such a
Nobody.
delicate balance too. We have such a thin crust. I mean, right? We are just we're teetering on
Well,
luck, right?
that's what I find so fascinating about human beings. Like this world is so fragile, from our atmosphere to our magnetic poles to the crust. I mean, and we drill and we
Solar,
we
all
suck
these
it dry and we pollute it, and it just fascinates me that we're. You know, we tell our kids to pick up up the rooms to keep it clean, but yet we will destroy this planet.
Right.
It just fascinates me.
Well, and there was another abduction that comes to mind as you say that, where the non-humans communicated telepathically to the human. You humans live on a very unstable planet. And that's why we use your planet as a laboratory. I'm serious. Unstable.
believe it.
Surprise.
So
I
it
believe
would
it.
mean that there must be other planets where there is surface life and life everywhere, and that it's stable, and they don't have volcanoes and earthquakes and magnetic field collapses. But this is
Monsanto.
our planet.
Right in Monsanto.
Yes. But so Earth, we think of it as home base, and that this is where life can flourish, and that non-humans would look at Earth as an unstable planet that they would use as a laboratory because it is so changeable.
Do you think, I mean, I don't want to keep you because I know we started late, but do you think that, and maybe we already are, I'm thinking of Battlestar Galactica. How, you know, the Earth was pretty much gone. We destroyed it, and they started seeking other planets. Do you think that we're already in that position of building craft and trying to find a new home for when this one really is unsuitable for us?
Elon Musk has been saying for over a year he's going to have a base on Mars by 2026, and he wants to die on Mars.
Really?
Yep.
Yes.
That would be awesome. No.
Now, but I hear in Elon Musk, he probably has been read into the secret space program.
Right.
And
Right.
this is what would fuel. And the secret space program has been going on ever since the end of World War II in the United States. And the astronauts, for real, they knew a lot about non-humans.
Yeah.
But they were sworn to secrecy. And the few people who did talk, Edgar Mitchell
Mm-hmm.
and others that I've talked to, they're not lying when they say we're not alone in this universe.
Well, even the Pope said it.
If we're not alone
right.
in this universe, how many are friendly and
Yeah,
how
they're
many are
not.
unfriendly?
That's
And-
Stephen Hawking saying we don't want to draw attention.
Well, to end on a positive note, Lynn Buchanan, who was one of the very talented control remote viewers, and they were based in 1986 to 1990 in a project where here's the shiny National Security Agency building that everybody knows about at Fort Meade.
Mm-hmm.
And they were in World War II barracks under the aegis of the Defense Intelligence Agency. And they were in the barracks so that no congressman or taxpayer could ever accuse the government of putting them in a shiny building if they were doing control remote viewing. And they all knew that. But they were so accurate. The truth is, they were so accurate about so many things at the time that they were doing control remote viewing. And Lynn Buchanan, in an interview a year ago, said, because these guys had never talked about it before, they've only really been talking in detail recently. And Lynn said that one of his tasks, which they learn after the fact, they don't know what it is they're remote viewing. This is after, and then he finds out. The task was to remote view the universe of friendly non-humans who are psychic, friendly non-humans who are not psychic, unfriendly non-humans psychic, and unfriendly that are not psychic. And Lynn said, Linda, the truth is the universe is teeming with life, and when they say we're not picking it up through SETI, the bottom line answer is what we are seeking is not what the rest of the life forms in this universe are doing.
Right.
And he said, we have allies. Earth, humans, evolution, we have allies. But there are hostile intelligences out there that would like to see humans evaporated. That was the word.
I thought the word was, she said we're going to end in a positive note.
Well, no, this is positive because we have allies, and he said if we had the
would've
allies
been
throughout
gone a long
history
time ago.
and now, we would have been gone. But we have allies,
That's good.
and the assumption is the allies are as strong or stronger than the hostiles. I would like to know why
Would they
would
want it?
anything in the
Yeah,
universe
want us to be evaporated.
want to evaporate humans? Well,
Because right now, what do
jump to the Anunnaki. In the Anunnaki story between Enlil and Enki, it was Enlil, the top dog,
No.
who after they had genetically manipulated and made these slaves, humans, to dig gold and do all this, it was Enlil who said he wanted these creatures evaporated because they offended him, that they had used their extraterrestrial genes to manipulate
So
DNA in already evolving primates. And so he wanted us erased.
Wow.
It was Enki and Nabu who argued no, and they went to war. The brothers went to war. We're here. So that means Enki prevailed.
That's where we got
over
all
Enlil.
ego. That's where humans got ego from. Was
Anunnaki, man.
So
Oh my God. Well, Linda,
I think we have a future.
We could
I
talk
think
to
we
Linda
have-
forever,
Linda's,
right? Yeah.
listen, for the people out there, if you don't know Linda, you need to check her out. It's Earth Files. Is it .com?
Earthfiles.com.
.com.
www.earthfiles.com.
And if you're here in LA, come down to Conscious Life Expo this weekend. Can you tell the times that you're going to be speaking?
I should know that,
Saturday
Actually,
at
grab
2,
it.
I think, right?
Is it Saturday at 2?
Saturday, I think Saturday at 2.
but I don't remember what time. I am doing a 90-minute lecture on the simulated universe question Saturday.
And just go to consciouslifeexpo.com and just click on her picture, beautiful picture, and it'll tell you the day and the time.
And
It's
the
always
issue
an honor to
is
have you
we
here.
are asked to do panels and other interviews, and so tomorrow is like a string of this time, and then there is when I do the 90-minute lecture, and then more and more.
They asked me to do like a 10-second intro,
Right.
and then she gets like 3 full days. You're always doing something. So you also on Gaia TV.
Yes, Truth Hunter,
Truth
reported
Hunters.
by Linda Moulton Howe. It started February 8th.
Which is
Awesome.
one of the most popular ones on that network,
Yeah,
I'll tell you
it's
that.
wonderful.
And then you have a radio show.
We do Phenomena Radio, John Burroughs and I, on RAF Bentwaters and related issues there, military, economic, technology, and Earth Files and Ancient Aliens. I'm here in LA. I've been doing
So you've
Ancient
heard her speak.
Aliens
She's fantastic. So
Yeah.
check them all out.
Yeah. Well,
that's great.
Every time I interview
Oh,
and
and
see
Coast
you
to Coast
and Coast to
AM,
Coast. What do you
every
what,
month.
Yeah,
That little
well,
show.
Last
yeah,
Thursday
yeah, that
of
little
every
show.
month.
Yeah.
3 hours every month.
Well, I become a bigger fan every time I get to speak with you, and
Agreed.
I just love
Thank you.
Linda Moulton Howe.
Thank you.
I do, and thank you for doing what you do.
Well, thank you for
Yes.
allowing us to share.
Oh, thank you. And so we want to thank you guys for tuning in. This is Truth Be Told. I'm Tony Sweet.
Captain Ron. Tony will be wearing the blue skin-tight EBE outfit we talked about earlier. Next week's show.
Yeah.
With a Sasquatch.
Right.
With the-
Well, if I don't shave my back, I'll look like one. But thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next time.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thank you.